I guess it's about time to start filming that Kingdom Hearts 2 review. It's been a long time coming, but I'm finally glad to be doing 2 and Recoded and finishing up the marathon that I started, like, a long while ago now. But, I guess it'll be time to start thinking of other games to review once the marathon's concluded, so... Oh. This game still exists. In time. In time. Yo, what's going on, my guys? It is Ryan here from the Nostalgia Factor back in with another review for you guys here on Nostalgic Blast. Today, we're going to be finally finishing off the Kingdom Hearts marathon with a look at arguably the best game in the Kingdom Hearts series, Kingdom Hearts 2, which was developed in 2006 by Square Enix, and is considered a major work of art in the Kingdom Hearts series, for Disney properties, and of course, the RPG scene. Kingdom Hearts is a very notorious series for a lot of reasons, incorporating Final Fantasy characters and Disney characters into the same world, incorporating legendary properties people known from their childhood for various different movies like The Lion King and Halloween Town, and just making original characters in a storyline that at that point wasn't as complicated as what it ended up being with later installments. So Kingdom Hearts 2 has a very good middle ground with good storytelling, beautiful visuals, beautiful music, riveting combat, and overall just accumulating everything that you love from both Final Fantasy and Disney. So here's my take on Kingdom Hearts 2. Let's knock these points out of the way right here, right now, because these are probably the most obvious things you're going to notice about this game. This game was released in 2006, and this was on the PlayStation 2. This game has been ported many, many times over, and despite the visual upgrades that it's received on other hardware like the PS3, PS4, and most recently the Xbox One, this game still retains the same visuals. While saying that, the original game on the PS2, which I've played many times over, still looks beautiful to this day. The different environments, the different backgrounds, the different sprites and animations and whatnot regarding the different characters throughout the world layouts, they all look fantastic. Halloween Town, for example, and Christmas Town looks really good with the lights glimmering off the snow, with the particle effects, with the snow footprints showing in the ground. Even the Pride Lands, for as bare bones as it looks because of the events of the movie it's going off of, the tropical environments that Simba ends up finding himself in look very luscious and vibrant, with a lot of good greens and blues and whatnot going with the color for the backgrounds. There's a lot of really good environments and stills here from different worlds, and even ones that look a bit more lackluster in comparison, such as Beast Castle, which literally just takes place in different corridors and rooms in his castle. They still look really good and vibrant, and this game visually still holds up on the PlayStation 2. Arguably, probably in my opinion, one of the best looking games on the PlayStation 2, at least for this type. The one problem I do have with the graphics, though, some of the animations can look stiff and tilted. You know, that's just more so from the time and the hardware available, with the different movements in the cutscenes, with some of the combat scenes when it comes to the cutscenes showing out, like with Sora swinging the Keyblade, perhaps another person you're traveling with throughout the worlds, kinda not looking the best, but all in all, though, it's not a huge deal. But the other problem I have with the visuals is something I mentioned, I believe, in another review, which was some of the cutscenes and whatnot. While they have visual facial expressions and animations going for a while with the characters that look natural in the world, sometimes they'll literally have just the stiff clay face with the same emotion on it throughout the entirety of the cutscene, which can be a little bit jarring, but again, limitations of the time, and Kingdom Hearts 3 and other titles later on retcon this, so you know, they fixed the problem at least. So other than a few quirks here and there, the visuals look really good for this game. And the soundtrack, again, I said it before and I will say it again, in the past 3 Kingdom Hearts reviews, I will never diss a Kingdom Hearts game, no matter how bad or how good some of them might be. The soundtrack is amazing. The composers from Square Enix, from Disney, whoever ended up composing it for all these games, have some of the best scores, I think, in video game history. They have some of the best theme music, they have some of the best atmospheric tracks across each of the worlds, each replicating the different movies and whatnot they're based off of very well, and just the main themes that they have for the Kingdom Hearts series are beautiful. And honestly, if you guys haven't listened to any of them before, or have never played a Kingdom Hearts game, even if you don't want to play the game, pull up the soundtrack on YouTube. It is fantastic. I'll show you guys a snippet here. Story point is a really big deal for Kingdom Hearts because it started off pretty simple in a sense. You're a boy that has the ability to wield a Keyblade sword. You go with Donald Duck and Goofy, and you go and stop a bunch of darkness and a bunch of enemies called Heartless, all while trying to find your missing friends, aka and also King Mickey, in the case of Donald and Goofy. Pretty simple journey. You travel across different Disney worlds, meeting them, becoming friends with them, defeating the darkness and Heartless, and eventually taking down any bad guys that are in your way until you eventually find your friends and bring peace to the world. Very simple plot line, very simple storyline, and Kingdom Hearts 2 ramps that up a bit with continuing the storyline and whatnot from previous games with the organization trying to take hearts across different worlds and unleash the Heartless. That way they can use Sora as their key, so to speak, since Roxas was kind of dispelled from the organization for reasons that you know if you play the game, and using him in order to gather hearts so that way they can have emotions and whatnot. I think the story for the most part at the time was very well put together, very well structured. The pacing of the game and whatnot is not just the main storyline game, I think, is paced really well. It has different gaps and whatnot to let you enjoy the different individual stories within the Disney worlds. Of course, some of the organization members and like classic Disney villains from those worlds appear every now and then, but that adds charm to the world in my opinion. The overarching story, like I said at the time, I think worked, and it was a lot more simple. You take down the organization, you save your friends, and you end up getting to go back home after all the stuff you go through in the game. Of course, the big problem that I do have with the story now isn't so much with the base game itself, it's more so with what happens after Kingdom Hearts 2 and its development. First off, you don't know who Roxas is and whatnot near the beginning of the game, because 358 over 2 days came out after Kingdom Hearts 2, which adds to the complexity. Plus, it was released on the Nintendo DS, so not exactly the best kind of setup there as far as characterization goes. The epilogue, the first stage with Roxas, like the first few hours, I will admit will probably turn some people off. Because if you want to get to the core gameplay with Sora, Donald, and Goofy, you have to go through a long tutorial mission with Roxas. And while I do enjoy it for the story and whatnot, admittedly, admittedly, it can be a bit dragged out, especially with all the mini games and stuff you have to do in different parts of it. So I really wish that would have been handled better. My other big problem is a lot of different story bits and whatnot have been retconned in later games, which don't really carry over as well, because the whole point of the organization in this game, they're beings, they don't have hearts. The whole reason they're doing all the evil things they're doing is so that way they can build their own version of Kingdom Hearts and have emotion again, like they did when they were people. Unfortunately, later on in the series, specifically Dream Drop Distance, that was later retconned for where people say, oh, by the way, we actually had hearts the entire time, we just did it to trick everybody, so that way the big bad can use them as vessels. Like I said, there's a lot more layers to the story, and there are lore videos on YouTube I recommend you look up if you're going to get into the story of this series, because it is far more complicated than what you might think, especially with the time travel and everything else after KH2. So, while I like the base story itself, and the characters are very cool with their personalities, and I do enjoy, like, Sordon and Goofy especially, and everyone else does a really good job. The problem with, like, the beginning parts with Roxas and the later retcons kind of bogs the game down, especially if you're replaying it again after playing the latest games. So, keep in mind there are some issues here and there surrounding it, but it's not bad overall. Combat-wise and whatnot, I really don't have much to say here in this department either. Controls work fluidly. I really do like the different keyblades and whatnot that Sora can get based off of different Disney worlds and whatnot, each with their own unique properties for utilizing your magic. And you also get different moves this time around that you can equip with your, you have a certain amount of, not MP, but certain amount of points that you can use to equip different attacks. Like being able to recover after you get hit, being able to do different slashes after you get struck in the air by pressing X, being able to shoot magnets around you for a finishing combo, being able to swipe out-of-air enemies from like a ranged distance if you get attacked. There's a lot of really cool diversity and mechanics here for each of the characters, including exclusive ones to each world that you can equip for these different characters, so that adds a lot of strategy and whatnot depending on your playstyle. And of course the magic that you use and whatnot is still very varied. They add some new ones in here and there, and I think that overall it just works really well in these departments. The big thing that I really love for the gameplay too is that you have certain moves. While it does use up all your MP gauge, you also have different attacks that you can do unique to different Disney characters. For example, you can do a move called Starward Fang, which allows you and Beast to, in Beast Castle, to shoot around a bunch of light. You get to tear people apart with Beast. Or if you're in, for example, Halloween Town, you have you team up with Jack Skellington, have a bunch of fire go around you, a bunch of flaming skulls that shoot out at enemies. And there's a lot of varied stuff like that that makes the combat a lot more unique in this game. In comparison to games like Kingdom Hearts 1 and whatnot, the combat works absolutely way better, and I argue better than KH3. I know that they kind of brought that back for the game, but honestly, they're not going to be able to beat out the charm and variety that they have in Kingdom Hearts 2. So the combat here, I think, is by far the best in the series as well. Just for the presentation alone, for the different moves, the combos, the fluidity of everything. The one thing that I don't really like for the controls / combat is the platforming bits. Now, Sora's jumping and whatnot doesn't exactly work the best. It doesn't have exactly the best kind of flow, it doesn't have the best feel to it, and it does feel really clunky. This game is definitely not built for platforming, but of course there are different bits that you're going to have to be jumping around and everything else. And that's kind of slow, but all in all, though, I'd say the combat works fine enough, even considering the jumping problem. So I think all in all, for like the combat and whatnot of Kingdom Hearts 2, and combined with the amazing looking gummy ship missions, which allows you to get treasures, rewards to upgrade different gummy ships that unlock new blueprint designs, and allows you to see the spectacle and beauty that is Kingdom Hearts 2 with all the visuals, and it's just all really amazing. So much is upgraded from the original game, and Kingdom Hearts 2 in the combat department, and definitely the gummy ship missions, definitely a big step up from Kingdom Hearts 1. Very good.
Take that! Yeah! Take this! Yeah! Yeah! Take this! Take this! Take that! Yeah! Take this! Yeah! Back off! Take that! Take this! This is it!
I'm gonna say all in all, guys, Kingdom Hearts 2, everything considered, is a fantastic game. This game is by far the best in the series, in my opinion, with everything it brings to the table, with all the diversity in the combat, the beautiful visuals, the beautiful music, the characterization, and the different unique worlds that you go to that still hold up from the PlayStation 2 days, the customization, the different magic combos, the different spells and whatnot that you can use, the different moves that you can upgrade for Sora, that you can equip at your leisure for your playstyle, and just the charm that everything has for a pretty, at the time, simple story, straightforward, taking down the bad guys, and very cool-looking CG cutscenes for the time. Kingdom Hearts 2 is a fantastic package of a game. Even if you're not a fan of Disney, even if you're not a fan of RPGs in general, this is a fantastic game to get into. Simple enough to where you can enjoy the classic Disney shows and whatnot, and also, just classic enough that way you can enjoy the aesthetic of having a fairly simple RPG to get into. And aside from a few issues that I've mentioned throughout the video, Kingdom Hearts 2, in my opinion, doesn't really have very many flaws, especially in comparison to other games in the series. So my recommendation is, guys, if you have not played Kingdom Hearts 2, whether it be on the PS2 or any new ports of it, because this game's been ported like a million times along with every other Kingdom Hearts game, pick it up and play it for yourself. The availability is there. There's no reason that you can't play it, especially since it's on multiple different consoles at this point. Pick it up the game and experience a piece of pure Disney Square Enix bliss. It's really good. And that is going to conclude today's video, guys. I know this video has been a long time coming, but I do apologize, but I'm not going to dwell on the past. Hope you guys do enjoy this Kingdom Hearts 2 review. Next video, guys, we're going to be finally finishing off the Kingdom Hearts Marathon with a look at Kingdom Hearts Recoded, which is another Nintendo DS title. So that one should be interesting, because I have a few things to say about that game as well, both good and bad. But nonetheless, guys, after the Kingdom Hearts Marathon is concluded, we'll probably be jumping into a few other games and whatnot I've been playing lately, and a few other games that I've played before that I really want to talk about. So we have plenty more content coming down the line whenever that content may be coming out, but there's no shortage of topics for me to discuss as far as reviews go. So with that in mind, guys, hopefully you enjoy and look forward to it. If you guys did enjoy the video, give it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you guys want to catch more reviews like this in the future. And comment your thoughts on Kingdom Hearts down below, either the series as a whole or Kingdom Hearts 2 period. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below as well. With all that in mind, guys, this has been Ryan from The Nostalgia Factor saying, keep on gaming.